Hey coaches, thank you for tuning in for this next phase of videos on powerful questioning. This kicks off a series of 6 sessions where we will be taking another look at all the different core competencies of the ICF, International Coach Federation, and how they apply to our coaching in real life, how to improve our performance as coaches, utilizing the information from the ICF, and also innovating based on that information in a way that connects with corporate sponsored coaching. This video is really taking a look at the distinctions between different categories of questions. So, what we've done in the past in terms of open and closed, information, exploration, we're adding to that both with the connected resource for this lesson and with the additional content in this video. But just as a recap to start, we're going to take a look at open versus closed questions. And with each of these, we're going to take a look at similar topics and see how the open or closed or the different categories, distinctions are going to address each topic with a question. So a closed question for the meeting on Thursday. The closed question might be, is this an important meeting for you? Whereas the open question would be, how important is this? The peer doesn't pull their weight question. The closed question is, do you think that they have anything that prevents them from contributing or being a part of the conversation, being a part of the solution? Whereas the open question would be, what might be getting in the way of this peer contributing more to the team? The closed question on, I just don't know what to do with my life over the next year, might be, is there a certain level of income you want to make? Versus, how might your income be a part of your goals for this next year? And I need to be a better public speaker, whether it's for my board, my executive leadership, my team, or whatever. The closed question would be something along the lines of, is there anything that you've tried to improve your presentation skills before? Whereas the open question would look more at, what have you learned from things you've tried so far? So you get the sense of open and closed, like we said before. Open opens the conversation, closed narrows the conversation. Sometimes a closed question is appropriate, oftentimes when reconfirming something within the agenda or just checking in on, are we done with the session, or is this the commitment they want to make? There are times when a closed question can be used. However, most of the time, and even within an entire session, open questions are preferable. But the next distinction is something that we've also covered, but we will go into some examples here. In the meeting on Thursday, an informational way to ask about the meeting on Thursday is, when's the meeting? What time is the meeting? And while that sounds a bit almost silly, it is a very commonly asked question, the style of question. When is this thing? What time is it going to be? And this is a sense of the coach needing to know how urgent things are, or wanting to be able to better understand what problem we're trying to solve. And generally, we want to move towards the exploratory version where the client and the coach get a sense of what's at stake or what's really at play. And we both grow together. So instead of what time is the meeting on Thursday, the coach can say, how urgent is this meeting that you are preparing for? And that little subtle difference is helping the client get a sense of urgency and defining the meeting around that sense of urgency. Another one, peer doesn't pull weight. Information question would be, what department do they work in? Versus exploration question, how do individuals in that department tend to behave differently than those in your department? And so you're just looking at some distinction there. And there's a variety of ways we could ask those different questions, but again, that's an option or an example between information and exploration. I just don't know what to do this year. Information question would be really similar to what we said before. Instead of, is there anything you want to earn in terms of income, we could switch it to an open question of, what do you want to earn this year? But it's still fairly informational. Instead, we can keep it again at exploration. How does income play a role in the way you do goal setting? And we still use that framing of income, but we're not just looking for a piece of information. We're looking at some sense of growth and exploration. I need to be a better speaker. Information question might be, when is the next opportunity to speak? That's close to exploration. But a better option would be, how soon would you like to challenge yourself to speak again? The next two categories are going to be new categories that we're adding to the list from our previous work. And these are leading versus trusting questions and disempowering versus empowering questions. So first, let's look at leading versus trusting questions. When it comes to the topic of the meeting on Thursday, the leading question would sound like, have you ever tried to spend 15 minutes before the meeting in meditation? Or how much have you meditated in the past to help prepare for a meeting? Even if it's closed or open, the coach can subtly be suggesting that meditation is the solution in order to help the client get prepared mentally for the conversation. By the way, generally in coaching, it's best for the coach, instead of to embed that suggestion into a question, to just say, hey, I've got a suggestion real quick, if I may. Many of my clients have found meditation before a meeting for maybe 5, 10, 20, 15 minutes to be very helpful in settling their mind. What are your thoughts on making meditation a part of the experience of your preparation? Instead of that leading approach, we could offer that suggestion using a bit of direct communication, or we can just have a more hands-off, a trusting approach of saying, now that we've explored this topic a bit, what are some things you might do right before the meeting to help you mentally prepare? We are shining the light on the moment before the meeting or the presentation, but we're not saying what the client should do, whether directly or subtly, by implanting a direction. We're not leading the client to a solution with our question. The peer doesn't pull their own weight topic. The leading question might be something like, how much have you looked into crucial conversations around this topic? And yeah, that's a great resource, but why not just say, hey, there's this resource that we could consider, crucial conversations, in order to help you prepare for the conversation. A more trusting, fully open approach might be, what resources or what type of resources would you like us to consider to help you bridge the gap between you and your peer? I just don't know what to do this next year. A leading question, because of course the coach could step in with all sorts of suggestions about where we should go and what this person might want to accomplish. But a leading question may be, again, let's not look at income now. Let's look at some other options. How have you used things like vision boards or goal setting frameworks in the past to help you? This is essentially like subtly saying, as we're getting information from the client with that informational question, we might want to try vision boards and other goal setting frameworks to help you set things up and figure out what you really want this next year. That might not really be what the client wants. It might be more of a, I just need to take a step back and look at what's most important in my life, not really spend time tactically building something. So instead, a more trusting, open approach would be, what is most significant in your life for the next 10 years? Or what do you want the theme of this year to be? Or what makes it challenging to picture where you will be in a year from now, or where you'd like to be a year from now, and so on? There's no real agenda. We're just helping the client flesh out what's going on. I need to be a better public speaker. Leading, that's an easy one to come up with because it's kind of easy to make the suggestion. Have you ever tried Toastmasters or something like that? Or how often have you ever tried looking at Toastmasters? If you want to make it an open question, it's still saying Toastmasters is a great organization to see about partnering with in order to practice public speaking. Instead, a more trusting approach, trusting the client to come up with their own solutions, would be, what are you looking for in terms of support to help you grow in public speaking? Or where in your ability to do public speaking do you most need help? and so on. These are just open questions without a suggestion embedded in them. And again, I just want to reiterate, it's not bad for the coach to offer some suggestions, but generally we want to make those suggestions within a, a permission or partnership, then share the suggestion, then offer it back with permission or consideration. So, can I share a suggestion? Here's a suggestion. What do you think openly of that suggestion? Final distinction that we're going to make with our powerful questions is disempowering versus empowering questions. I like to take a moment to disentangle that language of empowerment or empowering, because in coaching, the coach isn't there to empower the client as if we are imparting power. Instead, we are helping the client be empowered by creating a space where they can do the work, they can grow, they can charge themselves up. And that's, again, a distinction of what makes coaching coaching. I'm not there to give them energy. I'm not there to direct them. I'm not there to solve their problems. That would be trying to empower them. Instead, I'm here to help them empower themselves. So the language the coach uses will often leverage a disempowering space or create a disempowering space. Or we will be creating an empowering space. And of course, we want to help the client experience an empowering space in their coaching. So disempowering would be meeting on Thursday. What do the others need to do in order to be prepared for the meeting versus what do you need to do to be prepared for the meeting? Pretty simple distinction there. What's within this person's control? Next, the peer doesn't pull their weight. What are they doing? Like asking informational questions, asking about that other person, what they are doing, why they are doing it that way. If we're not being empathetic, we're just kind of leaning over there and poking at the peer. We're disempowering. We're not helping this client figure out how they are going to take responsibility for their side. So empowering oriented questions would be, how much control do you have in this arrangement between you and your peer's team? What are you directly responsible for and going to be held accountable for in this project? Similarly, I just don't know what to do about this next year. Disempowering would be, what has the crisis this year meant to you? We're in 2020, so how is COVID-19 preventing you from moving forward with your goals this year? This is actually right now, I don't know how this will age, but this is a common question that isn't very useful within the coaching space. So instead of these kinds of questions, we want to ask questions that help focus on, again, what this person can control, even in a crisis like this year, even in everything that might come up in their lives, the little crises that can come up. How might you be able to grow through this experience, this crisis, this next year? With everything changing in your life, what do you have control of? This, couched in this next year, as you look at this next year. And finally, I need to be a better public speaker. A weird, disempowering question might be, what does the audience need to believe in order for you to be successful? But that's really what disempowering questions sound like. It's kind of silly to expect an entire audience to change instead of the speaker to change, the performer. So instead, what do you need to believe in order to be the best presenter for these people? What do you need to keep in mind as you step on the stage before this audience, and so on? Pretty simple distinction, but it's so important to be aware of. The way our language sounds can create a disempowering space or an empowering space. We want to make sure our questions really focus on the responsibility, the area of control of the client, to make sure we are moving things forward. As we wrap up this video, I want to encourage everyone to kind of look back at Powerful Questioning 101 and at the coaching algebra concept. We would seek to add some of these distinctions of open, exploratory, trusting, and empowering questions into that mix of algebra. We want to make sure to leverage a more thoughtful, powerful approach with our questions to help our clients move forward. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coaching and continuing to grow so that your clients grow even more successfully.